The demand. The hall of the Galactic Council was a place of endless echo, built from crystal and stone, floating above the core of the galaxy. Leaders of 100 species gathered. Their voices sharp, their eyes filled with pride. They believed themselves to be the rulers of all stars. But today the chamber was louder than ever, for a new name had entered their records, a name small but growing, a world once ignored, now whispered with caution. That name was Earth. The council leader, a towering figure of the Dravor Empire, slammed his staff against the floor, his scaled face cold and cruel. "Bring forward the humans," he demanded, his voice rolling like thunder across the chamber. And so it began. Through the massive gates, a small delegation walked in. Humans, simple in appearance compared to the tall and glowing bodies of the other species. They wore plain suits, no glitter, no crowns, no armor, just quiet steps and steady eyes. The alien leaders leaned back in disbelief. Some laughed openly, others sneered. "Are these the creatures who dare to expand into our skies?" One of them hissed, fragile, soft, small, the human delegate. A man with calm eyes and steady hands stood at the center of the chamber. He did not flinch at their laughter. He did not bow at their presence. He simply waited. The Dravor leader raised his staff again, his voice sharp. "Earth is hereby ordered to surrender. All fleets, all weapons, all resources will be placed under council control. Humans will kneel and swear loyalty. Those who resist will be erased from the stars." The words echoed like a final judgment. Silence followed. Silence so heavy that even the strongest predators of the council shifted in unease. They waited for fear. They waited for begging. They waited for surrender, but none came instead. The human delegate smiled. A slow, calm smile that cut through the chamber like a blade. The silence broke with quiet laughter. Human laughter. Not mocking. Not loud, but fearless. A sound that made the blood of many aliens run cold. The Dravor leader narrowed his eyes. "You dare laugh, human?" The human raised his head, his voice steady, simple yet sharp as iron. "You command us to kneel, but we are not built to kneel." Gasps rippled across the chamber. Even the predator races who thrived on conquest leaned closer. Curious, unsettled, the human continued. "We have fought storms on our own world. We have survived fire, ice, famine, plague, war. We have endured all things that should have broken us, yet we are still here." His eyes swept across the council, calm and unafraid. "And now you ask us to surrender, to give away our freedom, our will, our future?" He shook his head slowly, the same smile still on his face. "No," the single word hit harder than weapons. It echoed across the chamber, sharp and final. Alien leaders rose from their seats, voices shouting, anger pouring into the air. "You dare refuse the council? You dare mock us, you are nothing," but the human only laughed again. Soft and fearless, and in that laughter was something the galaxy had not heard before. Defiance without fear, courage without pride, strength without armor. The Inari priestess, one of the few who watched silently, whispered to herself, "They are not afraid," and for the first time in the history of the council, a small, fragile-looking species stood unbroken in front of the galaxy's strongest rulers. Refusing not with weapons but with a smile, the Dravor leader's claws tightened around his staff, his voice rising in fury. "If you do not surrender, then you invite destruction." The human delegate looked directly into his burning eyes, his voice calm as ever. "Then let destruction come and we will endure it, as we always have." The chamber froze, for in those words every alien felt the truth. Humans did not survive because they were the strongest. Humans survived because they refused to fall. And now, in the heart of the galaxy, they refused once more. The laughter echoed long after the humans left the chamber. And that laughter was more terrifying than any weapon, because the galaxy had just learned Earth would never bow. The laughter echoes, the humans had left the council chamber, their calm laughter still hanging in the air. But the echoes did not fade. They crawled into the minds of every alien leader. Louder than thunder, sharper than fire. The Dravor leader slammed his staff again and again, his voice rising. "Insolence! Unforgivable insolence!" His scales glowed with fury. "A primitive world dares to mock us." Other council members joined in anger, their voices clashing. They must be crushed. Their world must be erased. Their fleets must be broken. But beneath the rage was something worse. Something no one wanted to admit. There was fear. Because no one had ever laughed at the council before. The predator races, known for their cruelty, shifted uneasily in their seats. Even they had always bent their heads when faced with the might of the council. But the humans, fragile and small, had smiled and refused. The Inari priestess finally rose, her long robes dragging across the floor. her voice soft but heavy. "Did you not see?" "Their eyes held no fear," she said. "Their laughter was not madness. It was strength." Her words unsettled the chamber further. The Tauric senator, his scaled body trembling, spat back, "Strength. They are insects," yet even his voice cracked, betraying doubt. Rumors began spreading even before the meeting ended. Alien envoys whispered to their fleets. Spies carried the news across the stars. Merchants in distant markets told the tale again and again. The humans refused and they laughed. On distant mining colonies, workers spoke in hushed voices. If humans can laugh at the council, maybe others can too. Oppressed species felt a strange spark inside them. A spark they had not felt in centuries, but in the war camps of the Drax, the laughter was seen as an insult. Their warlords growled, "We will burn their laughter from their throats." Yet even they delayed, not moving their fleets, not striking as fast as their pride demanded, for the sound of that calm defiance stayed with them. Back in the chamber, the Draver leader roared, "We will send a fleet. We will erase them before their arrogance spreads." His words shook the chamber, but no one moved to support him, not yet, because hidden in every mind was the same unspoken question. Why did they laugh? The Vecran commander who had studied human records spoke carefully. "They laughed because they are certain. They laughed because they know something we do not." The chamber fell silent again. Eyes turned to him, voices hushed, he continued. "They survived storms on their world. They fought wars that should have ended them, yet they endure. They smiled because they know destruction is not the end for them. It is only the beginning." The words struck deeper than threats, deeper than weapons. The Inari priestess closed her eyes and whispered, "Perhaps they do not fear us because they have already conquered something greater themselves across the galaxy." Transmissions spread. Some carried truth. Others carried rumor, but all carried the same message. Earth will not bow in the courts of the Veiled Dominion. The Emperor sat in silence, listening to reports. His generals argued for war, but even he hesitated, for in his heart, he remembered the sound of human laughter in the markets of neutral worlds. Traders laughed nervously, imitating the humans. Yet none of them could make the sound feel the same, because behind the human laughter was not madness but unshakable confidence. The galaxy began to divide. Some called for war, some for caution, some for study, but all could not escape the truth. Humans had refused, and their refusal had cracked the Council's image of power. That night, in the private halls of the Dravor Palace, the leader stood before a burning brazier. His claws trembling, he whispered to himself, "If they can laugh at us, then perhaps they cannot be broken." And in the silence of the stars, the laughter of one human delegation echoed louder than all the armies of the galaxy. Hidden strength. The laughter of the humans did not vanish. It haunted the council chambers. It followed envoys back to their ships. It echoed across the stars. But whispers soon turned into questions, and questions turned into fear. Why would a small world, barely touched by the stars, dare to defy the council? Why would they laugh when death stood before them? The Vecran commander, the one who had studied human history before, searched the archives again, his claws trembling as he unlocked hidden reports. What he found chilled him. Records showed that humanity had advanced faster than expected, their technology leaping in decades what took others centuries. Their ships were fewer, but their designs were strange, unpredictable, weapons hidden in structures that looked harmless. The commander summoned a secret council. Only a few trusted leaders were invited. The chamber was dim and cold as he projected the human files. The first image showed a ship, small, fragile to the eye, but the files revealed weapons within its hull powerful enough to pierce capital war cruisers. "This is impossible," hissed the Tauric senator, his scales rattling. "They are too young to build this, young," the commander said softly, but not weak. The next file showed human training exercises, soldiers thrown into brutal environments, surviving storms, deserts, frozen wastelands, their endurance far greater than expected, their bodies breaking and healing stronger each time. An Inari priestess whispered. They turned suffering into training. Then came the deepest file, one hidden even from most human networks. It showed construction sites in orbit, massive frames of ships still incomplete, weapons so large they could tear moons apart. The council members froze, their eyes wide. "They were laughing," the Vecran commander said, his voice dark, "because they knew. They were never afraid. They wanted us to demand their surrender. They wanted us to see our mistake." The chamber grew heavy with silence. On distant worlds, spies confirmed sightings of human fleets, moving not in fear but in patterns of preparation. Satellites lit the skies. Defenses appeared where none had been. Ships vanished into deep space, hidden from all scans. The veiled Dominion Emperor slammed his fist on his throne when he heard the reports. They are arming for war, and yet they do not move first. His voice trembled with unease. Why do they wait? The answer spread like poison. They were waiting because they were ready. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, weaker species began to whisper more loudly. The humans are not fragile. The humans are strong. Merchants carried tales of human strength. Smugglers carried fragments of data. Rebels repeated the story with hope. But among the predators, rage grew. The Drax warlords snarled. If we allow their strength to grow, it will be too late. Yet even as they spoke, their fleets hesitated. For deep inside, they feared that humanity was already beyond their reach. Back in the secret council chamber, the Inari priestess looked into the projection of human ships, her voice a whisper. They do not fear the council because the council is no longer greater than them. The Tauric senator shook his head, refusing to believe. They are too few, their fleets too small. But the Vecran commander answered with cold certainty. Their numbers matter less than their will, less than their mind, and now, less than their weapons. The truth settled into every alien heart. The laughter of humanity had not been arrogance, it had been a warning. And warnings are never given by the weak. The human mind, the council had seen the ships, the weapons, the hidden fleets of Earth. But what they could not measure was worse. The humans themselves in the dim chamber of the Inari archives. Scholars gathered to study human records, not their machines but their minds. What they found was more terrifying than weapons forged in steel. A priestess read aloud from one file, her voice trembling. They suffer wounds, yet instead of breaking, they heal stronger. They lose everything, yet instead of falling, they rise again. The room filled with silence. No one spoke, the Tauric senator growled. Nonsense, pain destroys, war consumes, no species survives endless wounds. But the evidence glowed before them. Countless human histories of survival. They saw stories of cities destroyed, rebuilt within years, nations fallen, reborn stronger. Families torn apart, yet generations endured. Humans did not only survive suffering, they transformed it. A Keelan scholar whispered. They turned grief into unity, fear into courage, loss into invention. Records showed how human tragedies gave birth to discoveries, wars that ended with medicines, disasters that forged new machines, plagues that inspired cures. For every fall, humans found a reason to climb higher. An Inari priestess closed her eyes, whispering like a prayer. Their mind is not built for peace, it is built for struggle. They grow sharper when pressed, fiercer when threatened, stronger when broken. The Vecran commander entered the chamber, his eyes dark. This is why they laughed, he said. We threatened them with destruction, but destruction is their teacher. Images flickered across the screens. Human soldiers in hopeless battles, outnumbered, outgunned, yet fighting until the last breath. Even when surrender was logical, they refused. One scholar muttered, they fight not because they can win, but because they will not bow. Another record showed explorers sailing oceans with fragile ships, climbing mountains of ice, diving into dark caves, risking death not for survival, but for knowledge. They are not like us, whispered the Inari priestess. We seek safety. They seek challenge. And then came the most chilling discovery, files of human psychology written by their own thinkers, words that echoed in the chamber. The human mind is not designed for comfort. It is designed for trial. Without struggle, we fade. With struggle, we evolve. The Tauric senator lowered his head, the fire in his eyes dimming. For the first time, he had no words. The Inari priestess turned to the council members, her voice low. Do you not see, even without ships, even without weapons, they would still rise because their greatest weapon is their will? The Vecran commander nodded, his claws shaking. And that will cannot be disarmed across the galaxy. The whispers grew darker, not only about human fleets, but about the human mind in distant courts. Rulers asked themselves the same question. How do you defeat a species that refuses to break? On the icy world of Varen, a scholar trembled as he read human journals. Their courage is not the absence of fear, it is the mastery of it, he whispered. And that is what makes them unstoppable. In the war camps of the Drax, warriors spoke in hushed tones, remembering battles on Earth where humans fought with sticks and stones against machines, and still they endured. And in the palace of the vile Dominion, the Emperor whispered to himself, ships can be burned, weapons can be shattered, but how do you burn a spirit that turns fire into fuel? The laughter of the humans was no longer just defiance. It was a message. A message the galaxy now understood. The humans were not fearless because they had no weakness. They were fearless because they had mastered it. And that truth shook the galaxy more than any weapon. The fear spreads the Council had tried to seal the files. They had tried to bury the truth. But secrets do not stay buried. Secrets move like shadows, and shadows spread. First it was whispers among servants of the Council chamber. Then it was rumors carried by smugglers. Then it was messages leaked into black markets, until finally every corner of the galaxy had heard it. The humans refused. The humans laughed. On distant colonies, miners repeated the story with wide eyes. A small world mocked the Council, they said. They stood before the rulers of the stars and smiled. In taverns of neutral stations, traders leaned forward to whisper. They were threatened with destruction, and still they laughed to the oppressed species. Those words were fire. Slaves looked to the sky with hope. If humans can defy the Council, maybe one day we can too. But to the predator races, it was poison. The Drax warlords slammed their fists, their roars shaking the walls. If their laughter spreads, empires will crumble. Yet even they hesitated. For if humans could face the Council without fear, what else were they hiding? The Veiled Dominion, the greatest empire of them all, called secret meetings. Their admirals gathered around holographic maps. We must strike them now before they grow stronger, one argued. But another shook his head. And if they are already strong, then our attack will reveal our weakness. The Emperor remained silent, haunted by the sound of human laughter. Everywhere the story twisted and grew. Some said humans had hidden fleets. Others said humans had ancient weapons buried on their world. Some whispered that humans were immortal, rising again each time they fell. Fear and doubt crept into places the Council had once ruled with certainty. In the icy halls of Veran, scholars debated endlessly. What kind of mind laughs at death, one asked. A mind that cannot be broken, another replied. Their voices trembling on the jungle world of Keelis. Rebels painted the word Earth on the walls of their hidden camps. To them, the laughter of humans was a symbol of freedom. But in the heart of the Galactic Council, anger grew, the Draver leader shouted in rage. They're spreading chaos across the stars with nothing but words. His staff cracked against the floor. We cannot allow this, the Vecran commander, once the loudest against humanity, now spoke softly. It is not their words we fear. It is the truth behind them. The chamber fell silent again. Because all knew he was right, the truth was simple. If humans could stand without fear before the galaxy's rulers, then the galaxy's rulers were no longer rulers. The laughter had undone centuries of fear that kept empires in power. And worse, it had planted something dangerous in the minds of the weak. Hope on distant worlds, oppressed children whispered to each other. Humans do not bow, they said, and neither will we. And for the first time in generations, the galaxy trembled not from war, not from fleets, not from weapons, but from a single thought spreading faster than any army. If humans could defy the Council, then maybe anyone could. The response the galaxy had drowned in whispers for weeks. The laughter of the humans spread faster than fire. Every world, every colony, every fleet carried the same story. Yet through it all, the humans stayed silent. And silence was worse than any weapon. The Council grew restless. Their leaders met again and again. The Draver Emperor slammed his staff and roared. They mock us by saying nothing. They let their laughter speak louder than our commands, the Tauric senator hissed. Then we must attack, strike their world, crush their spirit. But even he trembled as he said it, because he remembered the smile of the human delegate. Then one night in the void, the silence ended. A signal spread across every channel. No one had called for it. No one had asked for it. Yet it reached every empire at once. Screens flickered to life, static cleared, and a single human appeared. Not armored, not crowned, just calm. Standing in plain clothes, eyes steady, voice quiet. To the Council, the human began. And to every ear that listens, alien rulers leaned forward, hearts heavy, waiting. You demanded our surrender, the human said. You threatened us with destruction. His lips curved into a small, calm smile, and we answered with laughter. A chill ran through the stars. The human's voice grew sharper. You think us weak because we are small, because we are new among the stars, but you forget what we are. Images flashed behind him. Human history, wars survived, storms endured, ruins rebuilt, explorers rising. We are the ones who stood against fire, against ice, against hunger, against death itself, the human said. And still we endure. In the halls of the Veiled Dominion, the Emperor gripped his throne. His generals silent in the war camps of the Drax. Warriors stared at the screen with unease. The human leaned closer. his voice calm but heavy. "We do not kneel, we do not surrender. If you seek war, then come. Come and see." The chamber of the council shook with panic. Some leaders shouted, "Arrogance," others whispered, "Madness," but deep inside, they knew it was neither, it was certainty. The humans' eyes burned like fire. "We are not your enemy, unless you choose to be. We do not seek conquest. We do not seek control. But we will never bow. Not to the council, not to empires, not to fear." Those words cut deeper than any blade. They reached every colony, every ship, every throne, and then the human smiled again. The same fearless smile as before. "Remember this," he said. "Your power is built on obedience, ours is built on defiance. You cannot take from us what we refuse to give." The screen went dark. The signal ended and silence fell again, heavier than before, but this silence was different. It was not the silence of waiting. It was the silence of realization. The galaxy now understood why humans laughed. They laughed because they could. They laughed because they knew. They laughed because nothing the council demanded could ever break them. The Inari priestess whispered to her people, "Their laughter is their shield. Their will is their sword." And across the stars, fleets hesitated, rulers doubted, slaves whispered with hope, predators trembled in rage. For the first time in history, the galaxy was no longer ruled by fear of the council, but by the memory of human laughter and the echo of human words, "Come and see." The galaxy trembles after the human broadcast. Silence spread again. But this silence was heavier than any before. No one dared to speak first. No empire dared to move. It was as if the stars themselves waited for what humanity would do next. In the halls of the Galactic Council, rulers sat frozen. The Draver Emperor clenched his claws around his staff, but he did not strike it. His pride was wounded, his rage burned. Yet his heart carried a new weight. Fear, the Torek senator, once loud with threats, whispered instead, "If we strike them, we may fall with them." His scales rattled in unease. The Inari priestess lowered her head, her voice soft but certain. "They are not defying us. They are defying the very order we built. Their will cannot be bent." The Vecran commander, the one who had studied human records the longest, spoke with trembling words. "Their strength is not in their fleets, not in their weapons, but in their refusal to bow. This we cannot defeat across the galaxy." Fleets that once prepared for war paused at human borders. Captains hesitated to give orders. Admirals looked at their maps and saw not weakness but danger. On the icy moons of Viren, scholars wrote in fear, "A species that turns every fall into strength cannot be conquered." In the war camps of the Drax, warlords who once roared with arrogance sat in silence, their warriors uneasy, for even they understood. If humans welcomed destruction with laughter, then what war could ever frighten them? But not all trembled in despair. In the hidden caves of oppressed worlds, rebels raised their heads whispering, "If humans can defy the council, so can we." Their voices carried hope where none had been for centuries. The veiled Dominion Emperor walked alone in his palace, his steps slow, his voice low as he admitted to the shadows, "We are empires built on fear, but they are a people built on fire." Rumors spread that humans had fleets hidden in the dark, weapons stronger than the council had ever seen. But even those rumors were less terrifying than the truth already known, because every ruler, every soldier, every slave now understood. Humans did not need to prove their power with weapons. Their laughter had already proved it. In secret chambers, the council debated again. "What shall we do?" asked the Torek senator. "War, alliance?" Silence. The Draver Emperor finally lifted his staff, but his voice no longer roared. It cracked. For the first time, the council does not command. It waits, and so the galaxy waited. Fleets held back, spies reported nothing, and still the humans moved quietly, calm, unafraid. Then, in a final cruel twist of fate, one last file appeared in the stolen archives. None knew who released it. None knew how it spread. But soon every leader saw it. It was not a weapon, not a fleet, not a machine. It was a single line written in 1,000 human languages. "We do not seek to rule the stars. We seek to survive them. And survival has made us unstoppable." The words struck harder than any fleet. They were carried to every corner of the galaxy, and for the first time in ages, the Galactic Council, the predators, the empires, the rulers, all felt the same truth press against them. The humans were not a species to be conquered. They were a storm to be endured, and storms do not kneel. Storms do not bow, storms only grow. So the galaxy trembled, not because of war already begun, but because of the war that could one day come. And in the silence of the stars, the sound of human laughter still echoed.